Hello, welcome back into JumpStart Sports. I'm Steven Shoemaker here with Jason Kopp. Jason, how are we on this lovely Tuesday night?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. I was on a call today. Just need a quick story. I was on a call today and I was so tired that the guy outwardly asked me if I was drunk, which is a new one for the business world and probably doesn't bode well for me. But anyway, besides that, I'm all good.
I
Caffeinated,
usually,
ready to move.
I usually sleep till like 9 and I woke up at like 6:30 to get some work done beforehand, and it's amazing how much longer the day is just with
hmm
an extra 2 hours. I feel like it should be like 10 o'clock right now, but it's 7:30. But anyways, a lot of excitement going on in the NFL, a lot of some crazy trades, some crazy signings. I think
hmm
the big ones that really caught my attention were the Aaron Rodgers and franchise tag on Devontae Adams.
Yep.
But obviously, I think the big one is Russell Wilson. But what
Yeah.
do you think of all this excitement that's been going on in the past 5 hours or so?
Yeah. I feel like we've been talking about Aaron Rodgers since the season's ended. Um, I predicted early that I thought he'd go to the Broncos and then especially with like Nathaniel Hackett being there. But ultimately that's not the way it shook out. I thought it was really funny though that like all of the attention was on Aaron Rodgers for like about 30 minutes until the Russell Wilson to the Broncos was broken. Um, for reference, that trade was Seattle got Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, including their first rounder this year and next year, 2 second-round picks from this year and next year, and a fifth-round pick. And then Denver got obviously Russell Wilson, who's one of the premier quarterbacks. Although you could say he's like the third best quarterback in the AFC West, and a fourth-round pick. So I think immediately you have to say Denver's probably in title contention. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about it?
I don't know if I'd say they're in title contention because I still think they're just a young team with they have a lot of talent with their receivers, and they got their running back and Javonte Williams, and they'll probably keep Melvin Gordon, but we'll uh we'll see what happens with them. Definitely, they were having quarterback issues ever since they lost Peyton Manning, so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was going to see the day where Russell Wilson would be in another uniform, but
It's gonna look so weird seeing
it's
him
gonna
in
look.
like the orange throwback jerseys.
Yeah, like not that this has anything to do with football, but it still looks so weird to me seeing James Harden in a Sixers uniform. It just doesn't look right, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those things we're gonna get used to. But Jay, um, I like getting different people's takes on trades, the NFL, and obviously we've been talking about this for a while. This is what our lucky 13th episode, and
Yes, sir.
people are probably bored of hearing our voices. So
I honestly don't even want to look at you anymore. So I
yeah,
get that.
I'm pretty ugly, so
Me
it's
too.
uh, it's nice to get other people's takes on this, and we have a lot of friends who share the passion of football as much as we do.
Yeah.
So let's bring in our first guest on Jumpstart Sports. We have Ryan Shromsky, who's one of our boys from college, and then one of your coworkers, and Jack Lopez. Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks
Welcome
for
to the show,
taking the
boys.
time to join us. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing okay, except for the fact that even though this is my first time on, this is basically my flu game. I was chopping some garlic for lunch or for dinner, and I cut my thumb, tip right off. So I got a sick Pikachu Band-Aid on. So we're thriving and surviving right now. But if I start screaming in pain, that would be why.
I don't
Is it
even
a
know how you're surviving.
Is it a paper cut or is it like you lost half your thumb?
No, like I took the top tip of my thumb off with a knife.
Oh boy.
All
Well,
right. Well, Pikachu is there for you. That's what we've
Yeah.
always learned.
Pikachu's got me. We got the electricity.
toughing that out, an injury like that to be here on Jumpstart Sports is
Yeah.
going to be a memorable moment.
Almost better than the Jordan game, I'd say.
Yeah, but just talking a little bit about the trades and the signings that have happened today. The floor is kind of yours, but let's start with you, Rye. What do you like? Where do you want to go? Do you want to talk a little bit about Russ and what you think the expectations are for the Broncos this year, or do you want to talk a little bit about the Packers? The floor is yours.
Hey, man, you were just talking about Russell Wilson. Here is my hot take on it. I think Russell Wilson's career will not get better than where it is right now from here on out. I think the Broncos just ain't it, period. Like, Yeah, you got some young talent, and I'm sure they're going to ball out. I bet Jerry Jeudy balls out. I guarantee it. Javonte Williams, they're going to ball out because Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. But there's no way these guys are making it to a championship. There's just no shot. Every other team in that entire AFC, NFC, everything, they're not winning a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson's done. Broncos are done.
Listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but when Jay said they're title contenders,
I think
that's out.
I
totally disagree. Why do you think they're out, Ryan? Do you think their team isn't good enough? Do you think it's because Russell Wilson won't elevate Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton?
I think they no longer have better than they were last year. I mean, let's be honest. It doesn't matter what kind of a haul they got out of Broncos. Like, this was a win for the Broncos. Big win. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, 3 players. It don't matter. Noah Fant, get rid of him. Who needs him? Drew Lock, get rid of him. Who needs him? Was it Shelby? Who the fuck is that? Who needs him?
Who needs him?
Russell Wilson will come in. This team is gonna maybe get 2 more wins than they got last year. Bet.
Yeah, but don't you think they were 7-10 last year? I think 2 more wins puts them in the playoffs already.
Okay. Does that mean they're gonna go to a championship?
I think that their defense is built enough, and Russell Wilson, this will probably be one of the best O-lines that he's ever had, with some of the best offensive talent. DK Metcalf isn't crying about his touches, so he's got that going for him.
Okay, but what happens when Jerry Jeudy gets outplayed by Cortland Sutton and he gets
fine?
And we got
he has 2 good receivers. Well, and they do have. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Jay, I think it's really interesting to point out losing Noah Fant because he has kind of been a little bit streaky, but he was one of the up and coming tight ends, and I think he has so much potential. So then him going to Seattle could help him out a lot.
That's true.
The Broncos still have a lot of talent there, but also what do you make of the whole quarterback situation in Seattle now? Because I don't think Drew Lock's their guy. They probably need to look elsewhere.
Well, there was it's interesting because you'd probably have to think either they're going to tear it all down right now. They could get some decent draft capital for DK Metcalf currently. It's just so funny to look back at how they spent almost relatively similar to get Jamal Adams as they did to trade Russell Wilson away. With that said, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's a beneficial trade for both sides.
So,
I think Malik Willis could be the answer, or Matt Corral.
Kenny Pickett.
There's a picture of Matt Corral taken with all of the Seattle brass. He obviously didn't participate in the combine. Matt Corral the QB out of Ole Miss, but he had a great year and he's super, super competitive. And I wonder if they'll see some similar traits. I think it's possible.
So we also have Jack Lopez with us, and Jack, I didn't know they call you J-Lo because when you hopped into the stream, I started drooling a little bit because I saw J-Lo and I was like, Jennifer Lopez, but no. Jack Lopez is just as good looking. And Jack, I know you're a big
takes his butt way better.
I know you're a big fantasy football guy. So when it comes to fantasy football, and you can talk a little bit whether you think long term with Dynasty or even short term for leagues that we've done before, where you just do one and done type seasons. What do you think this year in fantasy is going to look like for Seahawks players such as Metcalf and Lockett, who don't really have a quarterback right now, and then even someone like Russell Wilson, who is on a new team and you don't really know what to expect?
So you kind of got to remember, looking at all this, that the Seahawks don't need to take a rookie. Now they've recomped the picks that they lost via the Jamal Adams trade. They're kind of set up in a position to succeed. Obviously, nobody they're going to get is going to be Russ. The only other one who was close to that is probably Aaron Rodgers, who re-signed with the Packers. But you've got probably 7 or 8 other starting NFL quarterbacks who will be in motion. Jameis is out there. You can go and get a guy like him. You can go and look to the Titans, go for a guy like Tannehill, who's just going to be the role player and just going to kind of fit in. He doesn't have to win you games. He just can't lose you games. So you kind of got to look at it that way. I personally think DK Metcalf is probably too athletic to fail. He may not shine out like he did a couple of years ago, but I think this past season is probably his floor. in regards to both on the field and fantasy wise. The team that's more interesting here feels like it is the Broncos because they last season re-signed Cortland Sutton. They kind of established themselves. They have consistently set themselves up to be one quarterback away from winning a championship. Now all of a sudden you've got Von Miller, fresh off a Super Bowl, who didn't want to leave in the first place, free agent, can just walk right back in the door, maybe take less money. All of a sudden he's playing with Russell Wilson on the other side of the ball. You've got to look at Jerry Jeudy is still there. He's still young. Tim Patrick isn't anything to shake your nose at. And they don't even really need Noah Fant. I know that they got rid of him, but you don't need a tight end in an offense like that, especially if you've got Javonte Williams out of the backfield. I mean, the Broncos have themselves set up to succeed at this point. It's just kind of a matter of their division. And obviously playing against Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year each is not going to be great. But I'm kind of looking at 11 wins or so for the Broncos. I think that they're going to be a strong contender. Chiefs probably still walk out of that division at 12 or 13. But I think they're for sure taking one of those wild card spots, and they could probably make a run.
The other thing I want to quickly mention is maybe you guys aren't as familiar with them, but they did draft actually a tight end, Albert O, who ran like a 4.4. He's fast as crap, and he's really solid. He was just kind of waiting under Noah Fant, so that's why they felt like they could trade him. So that could be also a huge beneficiary who might be a sleeper kind of pick for tight ends. Because as we all know, it's a wasteland.
Even when Noah Fant got hurt, Big O came in and arguably played better than Noah Fant was playing. And then even after Noah Fant came back, you saw it was the production from Noah Fant was not there because it was being distributed. I also believe Noah Fant is it's not going to be a guy they miss.
I think I agree a little bit with what Rye said earlier with this is just, I think Russ's prime years are a little bit behind him. I think he still has a lot of talent and he's going to do good things with the Broncos. He's going to make them better, but I don't know. Just looking at that team, I think they're going to be similar to like the Raiders in a way where they have talent. They could sneak their way into the playoffs, but doesn't matter how good Russell Wilson plays. They don't have enough to go very far.
Well, speaking of the Raiders, I mean, that team must feel like they have to just like they're easily the worst team, and it's not even close in the division.
They're the worst team, and they're still going to win 8 or 9 games.
No.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's just. Do you think it's possible? And I really doubt it. But like, do you think it's possible that they're looking at Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and they're like, you know what? Paying Derek Carr $40 million a year probably ain't going to cut it. Maybe we should trade and just tear it all down and just hope for the best in like 10 years when maybe one of them hurts or it dies.
Problem is, I just don't think that the Raiders are in a position to compete for the division like those other 3 teams are. I think they're a good team. I think they're a fine team. They're a better team than the fucking Jets. So I've just got to give them props for that. But they're not.
All of our teams stink here.
Yeah, they're not even close to competing for a title. So at this point, maybe you go and Derek Carr becomes one of those quarterbacks who's on the move, and you look to start moving guys like Josh Jacobs. We're kind of seeing all the reports that the running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, that they're all available because you can't really build a team off a star running back, and that seems to have been the way that the Gruden Raiders were going, and now who knows what direction they're going in with their new coach and management.
Speaking of a kind of an unknown future, I think we have to talk about what's latest is Calvin Ridley. So basically, for those of you who don't know who's watching, Calvin Ridley is a all-star talent. He's a receiver for the Falcons out of Atlanta. He's only had 1,000-yard season, surprisingly enough. He's 27, I believe, maybe 20. He'll be 28 by the time he's allowed to play because he was suspended the entirety of the 2022 season, and technically indefinitely for gambling. What's so funny to me about this is like he didn't really do much wrong. Like he didn't gamble because of insider trading that he knew the Falcons would lose. He bet on parlays that they'd win. So really, he should be suspended just for being dumb. That's what I'm saying.
He shouldn't be suspended for being dumb. He's got to be suspended because any slight activity towards sports betting from a pro athlete, you gotta just nip it in the butt right away. Because if they look at him and say, "Oh well, technically he didn't do it this way, so it's not wrong," then other players are going to come in, start trying to look for loopholes and stuff like that. And then you got to lay out even further rules. No. When they say no sports betting, get them out.
Do you think it's possible?
They do also say no domestic violence, and they only give out 2 games for hits like that. So maybe 16, 17 isn't exactly fair for a guy who's making millions of dollars putting down $1,500 worth of parlays over Thanksgiving weekend.
I just think that like Deshaun Watson's got paid that whole season sitting on the bench, even though he had 22 like sexual assault lawsuits.
Do you think the NFL cares about morals or
money? Well, that's what I'm saying. So like that's what's so interesting. Is like Jack brings up a fantastic point, and Shu and I have discussed it in the past of like how we couldn't believe that guys like Kareem Hunt, who were literally caught on camera kicking someone in the face, Tyreek Hill, that there was audio proof, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just really insane to me that like this is where the moral high ground was that they decided to suspend someone the entire year for gambling $1,500 instead of, like Jack was saying, doing something more drastic for like sexual misconduct or assault. I don't know. Shu, do you have any takes on this?
Yeah, I'm about to go in on Calvin Ridley real quick because I think he is very overrated. This past year, I think the Falcons are in a rebuilding type situation right now. Calvin Ridley has a lot of talent, no question about that. But even though he's on the older side, they get rid of their star receiver in Julio, and that immediately puts Ridley, the spotlight's on him in this number 1 receiving role. And he didn't do, jack this past season. And then, halfway through the season, he takes the rest of the year off because he needs to work on his mental health issues. So, to me, that's saying he's on the side here working on himself, trying to get better. But then how are you helping your mental health issues when you're doing like one of the main things you're taught not to do as a professional athlete? We've seen situations of it in the past, but you're told, you're not allowed to gamble because of like insider trading, whatever. And the consequences. So he's gambling on games. I don't really think he was like, I don't think it was like a cheating thing. Like he's like, oh, Matty Ice, go out there and throw an interception so I can win this parlay. Like, I don't think it was like that, but he only won like $1,500. And, it's just like the stuff he's saying, he's tweeting like, oh, I know what I did was wrong, but it's pretty cool. I only get suspended for 1 season. Like, I think as much as it sucks for the Falcons, they need to get rid of him. They need to look to rebuild. Most likely this is Matt Ryan's last year on the Falcons. So even with him, they weren't going to do a whole lot. So, as much as it stinks because they were putting their future into Calvin Ridley after this, with the mental health and just this, he probably should be suspended for more than 1 season, in my opinion. Who knows what's going to end up happening with that? He could be. Who knows what's going to end up happening? But, if I'm the Falcons, I'm doing everything I can to get rid of him. And he has a lot of talent, but anytime there's issues surrounding a player, as we've seen with a lot of players in all sports, recently, when it comes to mental health and just, these recent accusations, I think they need to just get rid of him at this point.
So let me ask you something, or all of you, in terms of like a dynasty perspective, for a rookie coming into a situation like this from the Falcons, do you think that would be beneficial as opposed to a place where like receivers fail, such as the Browns, right? Where Odell and Jarvis really didn't do anything. Calvin Ridley, totally right. He only had 1 really, really, really amazing season. He has all the potential in the world, but he never really put it together. But now they have no options. Like they don't have anyone under contract. They don't even have Russell Gage under contract. They have Zacchaeus is their number 1 right now. Obviously, they can't roll into the season with him. So do you think can be a question to any of you? Do you think that this is a good situation for maybe a free agent receiver? Because they have a lot of holes. Or
Jay, I'm pretty sure the dynasty team you and I share, we have Calvin Ridley. And if I was us, I'm looking for some sucker who's going to be happy to take him off our hands because I don't want
Jack.
I would never do that, considering I'm pretty sure Calvin Ridley's career is over at this point.
It seems to be happening a lot. I feel like that careers have just been ending like left and right.
Yeah, he came into the league super late. I mean, Amari Cooper had 4 seasons under his belt, and they're the same age before Calvin Ridley even touched an NFL field. So I think his career might be over because you start to see receivers hitting their prime around that 29, 30-year-old mark, but he will have now not played in, 2.5 years by the time that he touches the field next, if that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I personally think that this is far too long of a suspension. But at this point, if you're the Falcons, you got to blow it up. You got to sell him for whatever you can get out of him. And then on top of that, you might have to look at moving Matt Ryan. Like, if he's not going to stay around for another year, what are you doing? Your defense is awful. The kind of only thing you have is Young Wei Koo.
Their offense is even worse. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm probably going to look at taking Cordell Patterson because he's the only, spark that they have on their offense right now.
Yeah.
The only player I would want is Young Wei Koo because, man, that dude can kick.
That's very valid. All right, let's move on a little bit to the Aaron Rodgers.
I wanted to talk a little bit quickly about the Packers and just see what you guys think about that whole situation. Just in the same day, how they put all their chips in on Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Rye. What do you think this season's going to be? You think this is like make or break for the Packers this year because they have their 2 best players back, so they're going to be contenders once again. They're probably going to be another who knows 14-4 something like that. Not 14-3 maybe, something really good. But I don't know. What do you think about this whole situation?
Personally, I think the Packers, their make or break comes in at the draft. I think you spend all this time not even subtly feuding with Aaron Rodgers. Like, everybody sees it. And I think this is the draft where you go in and give him what he wants. He's telling you, I need a weapon. I need somebody other than Devontae Adams. And you got to imagine if they answer that, they get a wide receiver like was it Chris Olave?
Olave,
is that how you say it? Hey, I don't know.
Yeah, out of Ohio State.
So the Packers have the 28th overall pick. So like you said, Ryan, they have to, I don't know who stands out to you the most out of wide receivers in the draft, but like you said, they have to go get someone like Chris Olave or maybe even Jameson Williams if he falls that far. She probably won't, but.
Well, Jameson Williams is a tricky case because he tore his ACL obviously in the championship game or the semifinal. Championship. So he's not coming back for a while, which we've talked about probably like midway through the season. And just historically speaking, like receivers who come into the season late generally don't perform as well because it's really important to have the mini camp and stuff like that. So I wonder who takes the shot on him, but he is an elite talent. So you're totally right on that. And the Packers, they're going to win anyway. So maybe that is a really good landing spot.
Yeah, they do need a second receiver. Like when they won the Super Bowl, they had Greg Jennings, right? And they had a second receiver who was pretty good.
Was Jordy on the team at that point?
Was it Jordy?
Yeah.
I believe so. So just goes to show.
And Mercedes Lewis is
Mercedes
probably
Lewis,
still there.
So elite. That dude actually moves like a dinosaur.
I mean, he's still playing, and he won a Super Bowl with them 14 years ago.
Love that.
My take on this, Packers have the best path in the NFL to go undefeated next year at this point. They have 3 difficult games on their schedule. Looking at it right now, they played the entire AFC East, so you got the Bills and no one else. They play the entire NFC East, so you got no one. They play their own division 6 times, so that's no one. So take a look at the Rams and the Cowboys, I guess, and them with the Bills are kind of the only tough games. The Bucks would have been, but Brady's gone, so that team's decimated. So it's just kind of it's kind of just they walk themselves to a Super Bowl next year. And I think that that's probably a big factor in Rodgers coming back because staying there in Green Bay where you can cash out versus going somewhere like the Broncos, which was rumored up until today, you don't really want to play Mahomes a couple of times a year. Why not go and, take Justin Fields by the reins?
Well, something that's so interesting about this Packers news is the ramifications, such as Jordan Love, who apparently I was watching the Rich Eisen show. and he was talking to some people like around the league, and the Packers guys even were saying, if we don't re-sign Aaron, we don't have a backup plan. You know how embarrassing that is to draft a kid in the first round, like trade up for him actively, just to say that we don't have a backup plan in Jordan Love. I mean, granted, he looked horrible like in his 2 starts. That dude is never playing for the Packers. He will never see a start. What do you think he's worth, if anything, trade value wise, or anyone you think like would take a shot on him, like the Eagles?
We'll give him a cheesesteak for him.
I was gonna say, I don't know, a poopy pick like 6th round.
I don't even think he's worth that. I think
I don't know.
He's probably a product of roster cuts this year, if we're being entirely honest.
You think
and
so?
Then he ends up as a practice squad or a third string somewhere. I mean, the kid has shown nothing, and the Packers laid out what they wanted to do with him a decade and a half ago when they did the exact same thing with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre.
Yep.
And we're hitting that 3-4 year point, and he's shown zero. And Aaron Rodgers is walking off 2 MVP seasons in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you going to stick with?
Yeah. Also, when they took him, they didn't really know what the future held with Aaron Rodgers because he was, going through all his shenanigans. So they needed to have somebody. But Rodgers,
And that was in the COVID year, right? 2020.
Yeah. And as you said, Jack, Rodgers has solidified himself as an MVP the past 2 years, and he just signed a 4-year contract with them. But at the end of the day, though, even though most teams don't really care about this too much, I always stress the importance of how underrated it is to have a good backup quarterback, because you never know what could happen, especially as Rodgers getting a little bit older. All it takes is one injury, and it could change your whole entire season. So they need to look somewhere to get another quarterback if they're really just throwing it in with Jordan Love.
Maybe they go for Mike White.
Speaking on like the QB carousel, which we've touched on a little bit in previous copy toppies, Washington obviously was probably the biggest loser besides from the Seahawks in that deal. They also tried to make a deal with Seattle to get Russell Wilson, were turned down. Obviously, Seattle didn't want to trade him like within the NFC. Totally understandable. So what do you think that they look at now? Do you think they look at like a bridge quarterback, such as like a Jimmy Garoppolo, who probably can – like they're a pretty solidified team, I feel like, actually.
If are you talking about the Commanders?
I'm talking about the Washington Football Commanders team.
I feel like they need a quarterback, but it's probably just like at this point, I feel like come game day, they're going to be just rolling with Heineke.
You think so?
Most likely, unless I don't know what they could do. Who's going to want to go there? They don't really have too many options other than Scary Terry.
Well, it seems like they have kind of a propensity for swinging big, and their ownership is really messed up with Dan Snyder. So maybe they'll take a shot on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, somebody's got to take the bait on him. I mean, we don't, most likely once he's signed, he's probably suspended half, if not the whole season. But
100%.
I think he's just too good to pass on. Kind of like, I'm not saying this is the same thing at all, but it's similar when the Eagles took Michael Vick. They needed a quarterback badly. He was coming out of a really, really bad situation, and nobody wanted to take a chance on him. But, Andy Reid took a chance on him, and he played really well for us. So you kind of could look at it as being a similar situation. Some team that's desperate for a quarterback, like the New York Giants, might, need to take the bait on that and just say, we got to send it and bring him in. I'm sure both of you as Giants fans would be more than happy to have Deshaun Watson under center.
I mean, yeah, but not with the – sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes, baby.
Danny Dimes. I believe
this is really his last chance.
It's his last year.
This is his last chance. So if he doesn't do well this year, when you have Brian Dable and Mike Kafka, who's awesome from 2 very progressive offenses, we're screwed. So anyway, sorry, Jack, you looked like you were trying to say a point before. Did you have anything to say?
I think Washington Football Commanders team, if that's what we're calling them.
Yeah, no, that's their name.
I think there's only one man who can save that franchise, and his name is Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, my God. Not if we sign him as a backup first.
You go get him. Nagy proved that he's completely incompetent this past season. Mitchell Trubisky has thrown 6 touchdowns in a game. He's thrown for over 400 yards. and he did it. He made the playoffs twice in spite of Matt Nagy. Do you go and get Mitchell Trubisky, give him a shot? Ron Rivera likes these kinds of guys.
I think it's definitely
Bears
possible.
quarterback? Big Red?
What?
Who's the Bears quarterback this year?
Justin Fields?
Oh, I forgot about him. I was so focused on Big Red and
Big Red.
EDN.
Large lower region Nick.
Yes.
Is he even still on the Bears? Is he still signed with them?
I think he's still on the Bears.
Oh God.
Who knows?
He'll
That
see the
team is
field.
so weird.
Super Bowl champion. Don't forget about it.
That's right. So
Here's my
speaking of,
question.
yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I do have a question. What if bring revenge to the NFC East because they're looking to move him? Colts trade Carson Wentz to the Washington Commander football skins, and Carson Wentz comes in as a mediocre season but still beats the Eagles. How's that sound?
I like that. Dude, that was the next thing I was going to bring up, actually, was the Colts moving on from Ginger Jesus, as idiotic Eagles fans said only like 2 years ago.
Oh, Carson Wentz the answer.
Right. So Carson Wentz the answer did not do well enough for that Colts team, and that Colts team hates him very clearly. Like, very clearly, his play on the field is like average, as he usually is, but like whatever happened off the field, they want a different leader in there. So, I mean, it's probably semi because he refused to be vaccinated. Maybe, I don't know.
Didn't appreciate the Bible group in the locker room.
Right.
If you want to think of a more broken man than Jordan Love at this point, you look for Carson Wentz, because his soul was ripped out of his body. He had an MVP caliber season, and then another man won his Super Bowl. I don't think he's ever put that ring on. I think that he stares at it every night and cries. Carson Wentz is horrible. Now, in terms of who the Colts could go for, because they're not keeping his ass, maybe a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's going to be looking for this new home. Trey Lance is going to be stepping in. But, man, Carson Wentz, that guy just needs to move back to North Dakota or South Dakota, whichever one it was, and just sit there and just pretend that he enjoys his life.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So I know I'm probably the only one here who has any type of love for Carson Wentz. I still think he has a lot of talent. He's still young. He's only 29 years old. I would not want him as my starting quarterback. He's starting to become, sort of like a Andy Dalton type quarterback in a way, where wherever he goes, he's just going to be a backup. So I think he needs to just kind of accept that role. And any team he goes to, I'd be fine having him as a backup, to be honest. He's not ever going to be an Eagle again, but if you put him on a team like the Packers as their backup, I'd be pretty happy with that.
I mean, I could see him taking the Mitch Trubisky route, maybe. Obviously, being a starter ain't it. So sit behind a quarterback a year. Obviously, there are plenty of QB needy teams. Then maybe they take a shot. I mean, the fact that like Nick Foles got a huge contract in his at all ever, and then also Big Red was the starter for like a few games. That's crazy, to think about. The Neck was our starter.
The Neck. That wasn't by choice.
No.
Daniel Jones built like a brontosaurus.
Here's my question: What about the Steelers? Because
that'd be interesting.
I'm telling you right now, Dwayne Haskins ain't it. Mason Rudolph ain't it.
I think Myles Garrett would disagree.
Myles Garrett would love to see him twice a year.
If they don't take a quarterback in the draft, right? I think you're right. They have to go for somebody.
Here's my thing. I just feel like the Steelers, because Ben Roethlisberger has been what I would describe Carson Wentz as, a middle-of-the-road quarterback. And somehow that team, even when you watch them play and you say, ew, they look awful, has managed to be an above-average team, in my opinion, realistically. So what happens if you go and get Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mitch Trubisky? Do you think that team gets better than they were with Ben? Or
let me shoot something back at you then. So if you remember last year, and I'm pretty sure I had this conversation with Jack before it happened, the Steelers are probably the worst ever at keeping draft secrets, like even worse than the Giants. Everyone knew that they were going to draft Najee Harris. Like that was a very, very well-known thing. And supposedly they're in love with Malik Willis, which I get it. He's super, super athletic, has a cannon. And if Mike Tomlin can get his hands on him and develop him a little bit, he could be really something. Do you think that there's a shot? I don't think Malik Willis at this point, and we'll talk a little bit about winners and losers in a second. Do you think Malik Willis, like that's someone that they'll trade for, or do you think that they'll prefer like a veteran quarterback?
See, here's my thing, because like you just said, will they trade for him? Because it's, in my opinion, there's no way they get him unless they trade up.
Mm-hmm.
Because what he's right now, he's probably the number one in the draft for quarterbacks.
It's kind of up in the air. I feel like
and Kenny Pickett. So
yeah,
like
8.5-inch hands, Kenny Pickett.
So you got to think about who would be going for those quarterbacks. Seahawks.
Yep.
Maybe
Carolina,
Commanders, maybe. So like, and all those guys, their picks are what, top 10 picks. So you're probably trading your first round for next year too, right? Like if you're going to try to hop into the top 10. So realistically, are you willing to give up 2 first-round picks for Malik Willis, who may not be the next Joe Burrow? You know what I mean? Like, is it worth it? I would say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that'll definitely be something that they have to ask themselves. Did they convince themselves enough that he's the answer? I mean, they convinced themselves enough that they were Najee Harris away from winning the Super Bowl, right? Like that's probably what they were thinking when they took him. Najee Harris is an elite talent. Shu and I disagree on this inherently, but I think that they should not have drafted him because it's known that drafting a running back in the first round doesn't work. Like that's such a huge investment. I mean, can you name one that has worked?
Look at Saquon Barkley.
I'm serious though. Like,
yeah,
it's a known thing. Like you can find value. Look at Elijah Mitchell, 6th-round pick. James Robinson, undrafted. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about, but like I don't think that Najee was the pick there. They had a lot of problems at O-line, and they needed to address it. Still have it. So I wonder if it's not a situation where if a QB comes in that they're going to be any better than Ben.
Since we're talking running backs, this kind of just popped into my head, and Jack mentioned the name earlier. What do you guys make of Christian McCaffrey? Because he's so talented, but I guess when you look at it, it doesn't matter how talented somebody is. If they can't stay healthy, it doesn't really matter. And I'm sure any team would be happy to have him. What do you guys think is going to end up happening with McCaffrey? Do you think he just stays with the Panthers and has to prove that he can stay healthy, or do you think someone like the Chiefs tries to go after him? And man, if you see McCaffrey on the Chiefs, I think that's kind of unstoppable right there.
Well, the Panthers openly said they're trying to trade him, didn't they?
I think that they're all open to fielding offers, but like what they're asking for is a 1st-round pick plus a player, which is never going to happen. So
that's the problem with McCaffrey inherently, is that when he's on the field, he's great. He can't stay on the field though. He's proven that over the past 3.5 years, and on top of that, you can't really justify the draft cost that's going to be asked for him. So I see him back on the Panthers. I see him getting hurt week 4. I see him coming back week 9. I see him getting hurt week 11. And I see him being done for the season week 17. So.
What do you guys think when it comes to fantasy, when it comes to guys like CMC and Saquon, who are always top 10 picks? Do you think either of them could fall to the after the first 5 picks?
Let's start with redraft, and then we'll go to dynasty. In redraft, what do you guys think?
In redraft, I'm not touching either one of them. I mean, the injury history is there, and you can argue all you want that they were different injuries. That almost worries me more. It's not like he's re-aggravating a foot or something like that, and it was just, a shoddy operation or something like that. Both of these guys are just tearing each ACL. They're tearing each hamstring. They're just falling apart at the seams. I think if you're looking for a guy that you want as a running back early on in fantasy, you go Derrick Henry. You go with the Alvin Kamara. You go with these proven commodities who haven't proven themselves to be a liability. And obviously, people are going to get hurt. But those two guys off the top of my head, they've proven that they can last for an entire season with a massive workload. So I think those are the kinds of guys you want to go after.
It's funny because
Right.
when you think about like top 10 picks, if you're in a 10-man league, if you had the 10th pick, and this probably wouldn't happen, but like if you're the 10th pick and McCaffrey and Saquon are still on the board, you have to be like strategic and smart. But it's like, how do you pass on those two guys if you have the 10th pick? But
I'll tell you right now, if McCaffrey is there at like 3, I will take him.
Exactly. So you have people like that who are going to take him as high as their pick is. So he's
There's
never
a
going to
reason
fall to
for
that.
it, though.
Yeah,
It's the
because it's the risk reward, but the risk is too
100%.
high at this point. So my whole kind of the top running back for the past like 4 seasons hasn't been the first running back taken, hasn't been the second running back taken. It's
That's
been some
true.
guy in the second or third round who everybody was kind of high on, and then he just has a monster season.
Totally
So honestly,
fair.
this year I might be looking more towards the stalwart positions. Devontae Adams has finished within the top 4 past 5-6 years.
Mhm.
He's just a proven commodity. He just scores. That's all you
Yeah.
need.
That's totally fair. I think where I differ is like, I feel like you need running backs to win, which isn't always true, but you need running backs to win. And Christian McCaffrey gets 30 points a game without even trying the second he's on the floor. Basketball. The second he's on the field. So when I think of fantasy, I'm like, you know what? It is a risk reward thing, but everyone gets hurt, which is kind of like where I'm at, which is what you were alluding to, Jack. Like, everyone gets hurt. And yes, Christian McCaffrey has been hurt the past 2 years. I'll gladly take the discount and get a guy who, when he is healthy, will get 30 a game when in reality, they don't even have a quarterback. Like, how is he even scoring that many points? Like,
But to be fair, Cooper Kupp is doing the same thing in a different position, and
Totally.
he's proven better health.
Very fair.
The 2 of the past 3 years that Cooper Kupp has played the entire season of, he was a top 5 receiver and then the best receiver in maybe NFL history last season. Like, you just
that's
got
like him and Megatron. What do you?
yeah.
Yes,
You know what would
really
really
extra
suck?
game.
You know what would really suck if you had the first overall pick and you took McCaffrey and then AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson and you still are the worst team in the league. That would really stink.
What happens when Christian McCaffrey gets hurt? And that's why I need to chime in here and say, if you're taking Christian McCaffrey before the 3rd round, I think you're making a grave mistake. And if you
Third
are
round.
Third
first
round.
overall pick and you're not picking King Henry, you don't understand fantasy football. That's my opinion.
Would you take Henry over Jonathan Taylor right now?
I would take Henry over Jonathan Taylor right now,
Okay.
10 out of 10 times.
Oh yeah, that man
Okay.
is not a human being.
So what do you think about it for a dynasty perspective? Like, we can actually, this is, I feel like, a good transition. So for me, I actually think that CMC is a buy for me because I think this is the lowest you'll get him. And the second he blows up, this is like how I think about it. Like, right now, his value is probably near the lowest you'll get him, which is still very expensive. And then if he balls out, which is probably going to happen if he's healthy, which is a big if, you can definitely sell him higher than you bought him. That's where I think, like, for dynasty purposes.
That's interesting because Christian McCaffrey tops off my list of sells. I would right now take Christian McCaffrey and his name and think dynasty. I'm playing with my friends, hopefully for the next 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in this league, like a Henry Meta, is going to give me 2 or 3 first-round picks for Christian McCaffrey. And for all I know, he plays 3 games next season. He's played 10 games in the last 2 seasons, which, yeah, that can make a difference. But what if these 3 first-round picks get me the next Christian McCaffrey? I think you can still ride off his name right now. Look at how poorly he's doing. And like you said, you would take him at 3 overall in a redraft league.
Absolutely.
So somebody is going to give me a handful of picks for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give my prediction just really quickly, kind of going off that. Most likely, I mean, it could differ based off the people, but since the 3 of us are in the league together, with a redraft league, it's
4 of us.
Jack's not in our league, but it's probably going to go something
Jack
like
is in our league.
Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. I don't know. Devontae Adams, like Jack said, maybe Austin Eckler,
Sure.
Dalvin Cook, and that's 5 people right there. And then McCaffrey's still on the board. Alvin Kamara's still on the board. Who would you take between like Kamara
Or
or
is Alvin Kamara in jail? Or
Cooper
if
Kupp.
If he doesn't play, well, Cooper
Cooper
Kupp.
Kupp. So this is maybe a hot take, but Cooper Kupp reminds me of Michael Thomas when he set the single season reception record. Like, I like Cooper Kupp a lot, but I think that wide receiver 1, like I think I'd still take Devontae Adams over it, and I wouldn't blink.
Yeah.
I saying it depends on what the Packers do here, because they've got their pick still. Now they've got Rodgers back. If they finally do what everyone has been screaming at them to do for the past 5 seasons and take a receiver in the first round, or better yet, trade up for a receiver in the first round, go get a guy like Chris Olave. If they're actively making moves to try and win with Rodgers there, I'm not taking Devontae first, because that spreads the ball around too much.
Okay.
If they continue to be the Packers and they take a defensive lineman in the first round, I will absolutely take Devontae Adams, and I will ride with my 15 touchdowns into the playoffs.
I agree with that, because Cooper Kupp has Odell next to him, Robert Woods next to him, and even though they're out there to throw the ball to as well, Tyler Higbee, you got even everybody out of the backfield, he is still putting up big numbers, and I really think that this was not a one-off season, because you brought in Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp changed into a butterfly from the ugly little caterpillar he was with Jared Goff.
He was like a cute caterpillar.
I am going to make a prediction now that he has a better season next year.
Wow. That is a hot take, and I love it.
The tough thing about taking a wide receiver in the first round is when I look at my first pick, I'm expecting him to get me at least 20 points every week. And Cooper Kupp did that, and Devontae Adams pretty much did that. But I think, most just kind of based off of it depends on the team, but I just feel like it's safer to take a running back to get you at least 20 points a week versus a wide receiver, because they could get double teamed depending on the day. They might not get the targets that you expect them to get. But
who was my second running back? Najee and Aaron Jones. Oh, well, that one didn't turn out well.
Oof.
Well, I didn't even have a second running back, so at least you had a couple.
JT, get out of here.
Yeah, I didn't. He was both my running backs.
He didn't work as the workhorse.
Yeah. All right. So who else do you guys have as buys and sells? Let's start with Jack. Ryan mentioned one before. Do you have a particular buy in Dynasty that you're going to be looking at? And if so, are you going to be looking at trading with the likes of Henry Meta, who doesn't know anything?
Now, I'm reticent to say this because I am in a league with all 3 of you and don't really want you to know my strategies, but
I'm telling you mine.
Javonte Williams split carries 50-50 with Melvin Gordon last season. He's too talented for that to happen again, and he was still productive even with that workload. So if you're looking for a running back, you might be able to buy him a little low. We put some distance between ourselves in the season now. Maybe people are starting to forget. Maybe people are saying, oh, Russ is going to take away some of his yards. I don't care. Russ has been able to support running backs his entire career. You look at Marshawn, you look at the past 4 years with the Seahawks, you've kind of wanted whoever they've been running. So I would go after Javonte Williams hard this offseason.
That's very fair. I think the counter argument is I think that people are really high on Javonte Williams right now. Like I think he's actually like one of the hardest to acquire.
So my whole thing with trades, you got to build a story with it, and you go in, you pull up the snap totals between him and Melvin Gordon. You show that it was 50%. You sweet talk somebody. You tell them, hey, he had a good season. That could have been an outlier. People have tape on him now. You got to establish some sort of rapport and then talk him down a little bit. But Javonte Williams is one guy that I'm willing to do that for.
Seems like it's a good thing I have him. Sweet talk me, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need any more picks. Get out of here.
I want all the picks. All right, Shu, who do you have as a buy in Dynasty?
It's This is a tough one, but I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb, just kind of like what happened with Amari recently. I still can't believe that the Cowboys released him. He's so talented. I'm curious to see where he's going to go. And I don't know why they signed Michael Gallup because I think he's like talented, but nothing special. But when the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb a couple years ago, I knew he was going to be something special, and he's showed that the past 2 seasons. So I think he's only going to get better.
Jack, was there a reason you were pointing at whatever is behind you currently?
You talking about Zach to the future, a Joe Douglas presentation? That's where Amari Cooper's going. Get his ass on the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a really good get for them. He's still 27, which is crazy because it feels like he's been in the league forever. Like there was a point in time where he was a top receiver, alpha dog with Michael Crabtree on the Raiders. Like, imagine that.
Jay, you mentioned to me you think he could go back to the Raiders, which would be huge for them.
That'd be kind of cool. That'd be interesting. And then, this actually brings me to a sell of mine, which I think is Gallup right now. I think Gallup is a massive sell. It's tough when someone comes off an ACL injury. You don't really know what they're going to look like necessarily right when they come back. For them to be investing, they're obviously pretty confident in the return, but I think I would play off of that if I'm the Michael Gallup owner. He, at his best, has been like a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. And if you can get someone who's like a proven commodity, like I think a DeAndre Hopkins, honestly, like is probably at his lowest point in value right now, I would do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I just did it in a different league, is why I said that. But
that's why you're doing it.
Yeah, I did just do that. But I would do that.
See,
go ahead, Ryan.
So my big sell after today's news, Tyler Lockett. All right. Because right now you got the Seahawks. I'm not gonna pull the trigger on DK Metcalf yet, just because that's DK. That man's huge. That man's gonna get the ball no matter who's throwing it.
He a big boy.
And him and Tyler Lockett had very similar numbers, I believe, last season.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think any available quarterback right now that they pull in, or even if they stick with Drew Lock for some odd reason, is gonna give it to Tyler Lockett the way that he's been getting it from Russ. That's what she said.
Nice.
I really think that people are going to look at Tyler Lockett because before DK came in, that dude was easy wide receiver 1 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got the name. I think he's got the numbers out there. He was on par with DK last year. It's not going to happen again this year with whatever quarterback they got going. Sell him out, get a few picks, move on.
Yeah, I think he and Russ had really something special built up. I totally agree with you.
I'll tell you who I'm selling. I'm getting rid of Kenny Golladay because that man is garbage. He's on a garbage team. He doesn't get the ball. He might have a little bit better of a year than last year, but I
would take a swing on him.
Yeah, who's buying?
I'd take a swing on him. I would. That's one I think you could definitely buy low, and I would take a swing on him for like a cheap pick because the upside is huge.
I'll give you a 3rd round shoe.
Deal.
I would do that for a 3rd round any day of the week. You know who's another sell of mine? This is a hot name because he had a huge end to the year. Amon-Ra, the Sun God, St. Brown. I do not like Amon-Ra at all. I think that he is a 4th round pick. He's on the Lions. And on top of all of that, he did what he did specifically when DeAndre Swift and Hawkinson were hurt. I just think that this is the highest point you could possibly sell him, and I don't think he's going to be anything, despite everyone thinking he's the next Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he's nothing more than a flex play, in my opinion.
I don't even think he hits that on a normal week with the team healthy.
You'd be surprised. People are really high on him.
Hey, he won Sam a championship.
That's true. That's true.
But a lot, it's sort of fantasy football has a lot to do with. It's kind of just getting lucky at the right time.
Getting lucky at the right time.
Available.
What?
And being the only option available there.
Exactly.
Hawkinson was out at that point. It's just not really cohesive for him. One player I'm looking to sell, Keenan Allen. Mike Williams just signed a big boy contract. He's a big physical man. Keenan Allen has just turned 29 years old. He's right at that point when, Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice, when they were hitting their prime, that's the age Keenan Allen is. He's played 2 years with Justin Herbert. I haven't seen anything there. It's like the two don't even know each other. So I've got nothing on Keenan Allen this year. He's got a big enough name. You could probably move him for something, but I wouldn't want him.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good take.
That's a good take. Keenan Allen is definitely getting up there in age, which like
He's
I
very
think kinda
talented.
begs-
He's just very inconsistent.
yeah.
I'd rather have Mike Williams in my wide receiver 3 spot than Keenan Allen.
In Dynasty or in redraft? Because I feel like in Dynasty I agree, but in redraft I'd still take Keenan Allen.
You did.
I did take Keenan Allen, yeah.
You did.
I did. And I also took Mike Williams and then dropped him.
Well,
Idiot.
that's just you. Anybody you drop to the waivers, I'm picking it up.
It's unbelievable. I hate my life.
OBJ, Mike Williams.
I can't win. All right. Now I want to just go over this really quick. It doesn't have to be like a big segment because I think we have a really fun one coming up. But for the combine, right? The NFL combine just ended the other day. You had some really, really high profile guys run ridiculous 40s, which Shu and I discussed last episode. Do you guys have any specific winners and losers of the combine that you guys saw? And then I can kind of go over what I saw. And if you do see something like, I feel like the 40 really actually does matter only for the running backs, in my opinion. And receivers, if it's like really friggin' slow. So I wonder, like, do you think that affects them in their value for fantasy football and like where they get selected too? Because obviously landing spot matters just as much as draft capital.
Gonna be honest, this whole draft, other than a couple guys like Olave and Malik Willis, I'm not super impressed with a lot of the skill players. It's the defense that's really impressing me, especially at the combine. I mean, Jared Davis running as fast as he did at 341 pounds and 8.5 feet tall or whatever he is. It's insane.
That was crazy.
The defense is a lot of what stood out to me over the course of the combine, and kind of in looking at all the numbers just straight up. A lot of the guys who were really impressing on the 40, on the 3-cone, they're getting mid-round grades or low-round grades. You know, I'm not seeing a ton of talent there. Again, Olave, I think, is really going to be something special. But other than that, I wouldn't really be stretching for a lot of these guys at the moment. Obviously, it all depends on draft fit, but.
Mm-hmm. Do you think anyone lost the day for their respective position?
Not entirely. I haven't gone through the numbers enough, and truthfully, I wasn't able to watch enough of the combine just because I was away for the weekend. Mm-hmm. But just based on the numbers I've seen and based on the metrics, I don't think anybody really lost. I think people kind of finished right around where you would have expected them to. I'm not seeing a ton of skill here, which is kind of why I'm a bit okay selling some of your picks for some players in dynasty drafts.
It's only $11 a month.
It's only $11 a month.
Yeah, so sell some players for $11 a month.
$11 a month. I'll take what you're buying. Go ahead, Ryan.
I agree with Jack. I don't, at least for my team, the Giants and the guys in the top 10, I'm not looking at these skill positions. I don't think they're pulling anything out. But the 40 did matter for me for Sauce Gardner. I think he is going to be a New York Giant. I think he's going to be our 7th pick, in my opinion.
I think he will too.
We need it because apparently we're trying to move on from James Bradbury. Even though our secondary looks studly on paper, it's not doing the job I think it needs to do.
Yeah, we're trash.
So getting a dude who can move his feet and stay on these people, like people on the Giants seem to have a problem doing, I think he won me over. I really do, because before the combine, I didn't care about secondary picks at all, and now I'm sitting here hoping we pick him with the 7th overall. Honestly, but aside from those 40 times and impressiveness, my man Ikem. He's going to be a Giant too.
I hope so.
Overall, I'm telling you, boost that O-line. All right? That's what's going to happen, because let's all be real here. Who do we think's going first overall?
Evan
if
Neal.
You asked me 2 days ago, I would have said Icky or Evan Neal.
I think it's Evan Neal still.
I don't know. They just tagged Cam Robinson, so that makes me think that maybe they're going to look more like an Aiden Hutchinson, which is better for the Giants.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they take Hutchinson, to be honest.
I mean, either way, Hutchinson either goes to them or to the Jags or the Lions. He's not making it out of top 2.
No shot.
Do you think you think if Hutchinson goes 1, the Lions are gonna, after taking Sewell, take Neal, take another offensive lineman?
I think they'll go defense.
I think they'd go Kayvon.
Their team is so bad. I don't know.
I really want him, Thibodeau, but he's not falling to 15.
Dude, I don't know. I mean, this whole thing about his personality and whatever, he just added to the flames because he ran the 40, got measured, and then said this was too much and didn't do any of the position drills.
Who cares? I'm sorry.
They do. The teams, because they think that his fire isn't there because everyone else was doing it.
Who else was being judged for their personality before this previous year? Micah Parsons.
That's true.
And he came on the field and was arguably one of the biggest difference makers in that draft class.
Well, he changed the Cowboys' defense completely.
Exactly.
They were so bad.
So I really think anything about Kayvon having a bad attitude is baloney.
I'm just gonna go over this for me, like the winners and losers. I thought of the combine. I think winners were like most of the receivers because somehow 12 of them, I'm pretty sure if that's correct, ran under a 4.4, which is nuts.
Fastest in history, I think, right?
Yeah, the most, and like it's so nuts. Obviously the clocks were big losers. Holy crap, they were so wrong. They had what's his name? Taekwon out of Baylor, that he ran the fastest 40 ever. He did not. They also had Chris Olave running a 4.28, which was a full 10th of a second wrong. It was crazy. But a huge loser, and maybe you guys aren't as familiar with him, is Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is a running back out of Notre Dame, and he came in. He was incredibly productive, kind of like an Austin Eckler-esque player because he's very small, but also one of the best run blockers in the nation. The issue is he came in at like 5'9", 194, and then tested horrible, and then ran a 4.7. Like at that's where it starts to become a problem for teams. And I think he cost himself millions of dollars. And I also think David Bell is also a loser. He ran really, really slow too out of Purdue. And then for my biggest winner, I mean, Malik Willis, I think, is one. And Breece Hall out of Iowa State, who is definitely, in my opinion, cemented himself as the running back 1 in this class. And the only skill position player I would feel comfortable at 101 if in dynasty purposes.
Yeah, well, a lot of really good takes. Jack, Ryan, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us.
Whoa. Hold on. We didn't get to the best part.
I was about to get there, but you rudely interrupted me.
I interrupted you.
But yeah, so we want to do something a little fun too. And we know you guys are big movie and TV show guys, right? You got Game of Thrones behind you, my favorite show. Jack, behind you, you got Joe Douglas, which the Jets are kind of a comedic movie in its own. But just to go to you guys really quickly, give us your top 5 favorite. I thought it was Marvel movies of all time, but it looks like you just want to do.
I just said superhero. You could do Marvel
movies.
Yeah, I just did superhero movies, TV shows.
Whatever you guys want. Jack, why don't you start us off? Give us your top 5. It doesn't have to be in order.
All right. This is actually relatively easy for me, considering my two favorite movies of all time are both comic book movies. You got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at number 1. I think it's an unbelievably outstanding achievement. It's the best animation I've ever seen in a movie. It's got one of the best Spider-Man stories I've ever seen. They were able to bring in 5 characters that nobody was familiar with and just perfectly blend them all together. I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller are geniuses, and they can pretty much do whatever they want at this point. My number 2, it's been The Dark Knight for, I don't know, a decade plus at this point. First time I ever saw The Dark Knight, my father told me, get in the car. We're going to see a movie. It's called The Dark Knight. I had no idea it was a Batman movie. it blew my mind. It blew my little 11, 12-year-old mind, however old I was. Instantly became my favorite movie, and it was only usurped recently by Into the Spider-Verse. And number 3 is not going to be a shock. It's Logan. It's barely even a comic book movie. It's just kind of a guy ripping through people with claws, and it's awesome. My number 4, I know none of you have seen it yet. It's the Batman. It's so good.
Oh, I've seen it.
It's so good, dude.
Wow, you think it's top 5?
I think it is. It's at
Wow.
least for me. They finally got right what I wanted out of Batman all these years, which is the detective side, the noir side. They leaned into the silliness. They acknowledged how ridiculous it is that this 6.5-foot tall man keeps walking into rooms dressed like a bat, and the police are just somehow okay with it. I think it's a near perfect movie. I barely have any issues with it. I absolutely love it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This isn't giving anything away for you guys who haven't. I thought like Robert Pattinson was an amazing Batman and not an amazing Bruce Wayne. What do you think of that?
So that's kind of the angle they went for in this. I'm pretty sure they hint towards it a lot throughout the movie that he's trying to socially distance himself, not because of COVID, but because he doesn't want to be a part of society. He wants to be a part of the night. And I think that's something they're probably going to have him grow on, have him start becoming the playboy billionaire philanthropist that we see in every other version of Batman. I think that this is honestly more of a Bruce Wayne origin story than a Batman origin story in a lot of ways.
I like that take. Okay.
I have a quick question, Jack. How did Jeffrey Wright do as Commissioner Gordon? Because I thought that was an interesting choice to cast him as that role.
He was amazing because, like I said, they lean into the ridiculousness, and he fully acknowledges throughout the movie that it's weird that this guy is here.
Yeah.
So it works really well. My number 5, it's got to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Just one of the most fun comic book movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm real glad you liked the Batman. Hopefully they do elaborate on his character, and he'll probably go out with a bang in 2 years when they reset the universe again. It doesn't matter how good it is. Marvel will always be the king, and that's why all 5 of my top 5 are in fact Marvel movies.
Okay.
/ TV shows, because Jason did tell me TV shows were a thing.
Oh, sorry.
But I will agree with you on one thing, because my number 1 is also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Wow.
Watching that movie by myself was exciting because I'm a nerd. Watching it with my girlfriend and making her like it was exciting because I could share it. And then watching it with my, at the time, 6-year-old son and him loving it because of how funky and cool it was. And watching him have his mind blown at the fact that Peter Parker isn't the only Spider-Man is a nerdgasm. It is easily one of, if not the best superhero movies I have ever seen, truly. Can't wait for the sequel. I think they set that up, and hopefully they do plan on making some sort of reference to that in the Marvel movies. Hopefully it gets pulled in and it's canon. I would love it. Jack, you look confused there.
I'm not confused at all.
He's waiting for your number 2.
I'm just taking in your excitement.
Number 2, it might be a little cheesy, but it's Avengers Endgame. I know most people say Infinity War is better than Endgame. There is just some satisfaction to me about being one of the people who literally watched Iron Man in 2008, and basically like 98% of the movies in the Infinity Saga in the theaters as they rolled out. And then to see Endgame and watch all the heroes come together and the Avengers assemble, which they've teased Rogers saying in like 3 other movies, and then he finally says it. It's just bad, but it's
nice.
Sick. Awesome. Number 3, a more recent installment, Loki. Loki, to me, as a television show, set aside from the MCU, even though it has massive implications to the MCU, To me, it was so well done as a show, in my opinion. I genuinely, it might be the only Marvel show they've put out so far that I've been like itching to see the next episode to know what was going to happen. I was actually cared about all the new characters they put in there. I thought Owen Wilson being in the MCU was just going to be kind of out of place and wonky, but I actually loved his character and I can't wait to see him again. I think Loki is easily one of the most transformed characters and most emotionally delved into character in the Marvel universe. So getting his own show, I think he really deserved it. I think Tom Hiddleston is fantastic at acting. I hope they don't get rid of Loki anytime soon. Then Deadpool 2.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
You watch a Deadpool movie with Ryan Reynolds and you don't laugh the entire movie through, something's wrong with you. You're insane. If you don't walk out of a Deadpool movie wanting to watch that again, something is wrong with you. Deadpool is a comedic genius. Ryan Reynolds is a comedic genius. That man's all over the place. And I don't want him anywhere else except Deadpool. I don't want him making any other movies. I want Deadpool 3 now.
I think Ryan Reynolds is best at being Ryan Reynolds in literally every movie he's ever been in, ever.
And it's
It is
amazing.
Amazing. And he's
like
so
Deadpool.
good at being him. Like Free Guy, for example, was just Ryan Reynolds in a video game. It was awesome. I
And
loved
Deadpool
it.
was like the character born for Ryan Reynolds. Like
Exactly.
if you threw Ryan Reynolds into the MCU as any other character and he played the way he did, people would be so annoyed about his like the standing out, not being realistic, whatever. But even now, if you were to take Endgame and put Deadpool in there and have Ryan Reynolds acting the way he was around all these serious people with their friends dying, coming back to life, nobody would be mad about it because it's just so perfect.
Yeah.
I think I have my number 5 then, Thor Ragnarok. Everybody loves Thor. Everybody hates Thor 2. So that just makes Thor 3 all the better with how great it was. Has Loki in it. Has some of the most badass fighting scenes and some of the best music choices.
I wish I remembered that one. Shoot. Shu, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. There's just so many great superhero movies, but I think my top 5, I'm going to go the other way, starting with number 5. I actually have Thor Ragnarok in there. It's just such a great movie. Thor's so good. It's interesting with the Hulk because when I think of the Hulk, I always think of Ed Norton. So having the new Hulk was like more of a comedic thing with him in there, but it was still really fun.
You think of Ed Norton? There have been 9 movies with Mark Ruffalo, and you're still thinking of Ed Norton?
Oh, yeah.
From 2008?
Ed Norton is so much better than Mark Ruffalo. So much better.
That's a hot take.
But yeah, that's number 5. Number 4, I go Iron Man 2 because Iron Man's my favorite superhero of all time. And I think the second movie was just the best out of the 3. Just my opinion on that. Number 3, I'm going with Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire because I think Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man of all time. A lot of people disagree with me on that. I can see Jack's face, but
Spider-Man 3?
I think Andrew Garfield was overrated. And,
the one where he does the emo
No,
stuff?
no, he's talking about
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not talking about No Way Home. I'm talking about Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant No Way Home with
No,
because Tobey Maguire's in there too.
Throwing me for a loop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going really old school compared to you guys, but and then obviously my number 2, I have the Hulk because I could watch that movie all the time. I think it was so good. That Hulk was just so much scarier, so much meaner than Mark Ruffalo. But clearly not everyone agrees with me on that. And then my number one movie is The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and the Joker.
Okay, so I totally agree with what Ryan said earlier. I actually kind of now hearing you guys, I kind of wish I changed some of them around because like some of them are just such perfect movies, like Deadpool and God, I love Thor Ragnarok is one of the most hilarious movies. So at number 5, I'll kick it off with one that Ryan also has, Loki. I think Tom Hiddleston has got to be one of my favorite. He is my favorite character in the MCU. I don't think it's close. He's just so talented, and the character of Loki just throws you for such a loop. That's so funny, and he's such a dick, and it's hilarious.
He's got the sarcastic charm that I love.
It's just I just love it. Totally deserved his own show. He was amazing. I agree with Ryan because we talked about it all the time. I could not wait for the next episode for each one. And another show I felt like that is my number 4, Peacemaker. Now, I genuinely don't love DC, but Peacemaker made me laugh so freaking hard when he was in the Suicide Squad when I watched it with Jack, and then he totally deserved his own spinoff because it's just John Cena being John Cena.
How do you even see him in the movie?
You haven't seen the movie yet?
I don't, or this, I don't know how you saw him.
The Suicide Squad. Oh,
he's making a joke that you're not picking up on, Jay.
That went way over my head.
Way over my head.
So if he was in the show, I mean, he was really good. No, it was just such a well done show. I thought DC finally nailed one. And then number 3, you both actually told me to watch this for so long. The Boys.
The Boys.
Comedic genius. I love The Boys. I am so excited for their season 2, which I think is June 3rd.
No, season 3.
Yeah. But it comes out June 3rd.
I don't know. It might be delayed because the guy who plays Homelander just got 12 months in prison in Spain.
Oh, yep. I did not know that.
He got in a bar fight over the weekend and threatened to kill a guy, and it was a whole thing.
He did one of those, do you know who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my, that's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that sucks. He's so good as Homelander.
Well, yeah, we now know why.
Yeah, now he's real life Homelander.
I don't know how I'll ever be able to watch that because I've heard great things about The Boys, but it's only on Amazon Prime, right? And I don't have an account, so
it's so good.
Listen, I have like Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO, AMC. I just don't know why I need to get another one just for one show.
I love how you have AMC Plus before you have Amazon.
The Walking Dead.
The Boys is also now the second best superhero show that's on Amazon at this point. Because
what is the other one?
Invincible came out over the summer.
Yeah, I thought about putting Invincible on there too. If you haven't seen that one, shoot. Well, I guess you can't see that one.
If one of you would like to lend me your account, I'd be more than happy to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think Mama Cop would love that. So going on to my number 2 is the real Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man No Way Home. Also with all of the Spider-Men and Tobey Maguire. Yeah. I just thought it was the best Spider-Man movie I think that I've seen. I came out of it so thoroughly satisfied with like the additions of Matt Murdock. Like that throw-in was not expected from me, and we all knew that the other Spider-Men were going to be in the movie, but like they alluded to like the one from Spider-Man in the Multiverse. I don't know. I can't think of his name right now. Miles Morales. So I just think that it's set up a lot for the multiverse. I'm so pumped for Doctor Strange. I think it's going to be so good.
I'm hoping there is an Into the Spider-Verse reference in Doctor Strange because
I think there
will trailer, you can see him going through a little portal and there's a little cartoon world. So
yeah, I think there will be. It's interesting because like I actually do watch those breakdowns for whatever reason. I just am such a dork, and I was watching one that was like they reference What If a lot, and one of the things from What If is Captain Carter, and I really think that Captain Carter will be making an appearance in this next Doctor Strange. So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be so good. And then number 1, not a shock, Dark Knight. Dark Knight is the greatest superhero movie show ever. I I saw a lot of people say that the Batman was close to it, which I can't get there. Can't get there, but
I still have to see it. But like when Jack said it's his like favorite Batman, it's like I don't know. I don't get how you can beat Christian Bale and Heath Ledger.
it's exactly like how do you beat Christian Bale's voice is like perfect. Well, his American accent is perfect.
I'll tell you how you do it. You get Cedric Diggory and the guy from There Will Be Blood who got his brain splattered on the bowling alley at the end, and it works. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I'm Batman.
I just thought, yeah, that's got to be my number one. But yeah, so that'll wrap this copy toppy.